The video looped in silence. Soraya Kane's face flickered across the screen, curious, wide-eyed, surrounded by sterile white walls. She turned, reached toward a glowing console panel. Then the frame jolted. 2 security drones appeared, hovering fast. A high-pitched warning in Council Standard. A small cry. The image froze as the drone's appendage pierced her chest. Commander Alara Voss exhaled slowly. Her hands were clenched behind her back, her jaw locked tight. The room was cold and quiet, save for the subtle hum of filtered air. Behind her, a dozen EarthGov officials sat around the semicircular table, frozen in shock, outrage, or political calculation. "We can't respond militarily," said Minister Kian. His voice was the first to break the tension. "It's a diplomatic tragedy, yes, but—" "She was 7," Alara said flatly. Her eyes never left the screen. "And the Council ruled it an act of espionage," said another delegate, this one from the Department of Interstellar Affairs. "We're under treaty. You activate a fleet and we're expelled from the Accord. Cut off. Alone. We are alone," she snapped, finally turning to face them. "We always were. We just pretended otherwise." President Lyra Day watched her with careful, calculating eyes. "The footage was leaked anonymously. Officially, the Council hasn't admitted to anything. If we respond without proof of authorization..." They sent the body back in a cargo container, labeled as biological waste. Silence followed. Alara stepped away from the console. The memory of Soraya's blank, uncomprehending face clung to her like frost. "We trusted them," she said. "We offered peace. And when they killed a child, they didn't expect us to bleed. Only to bow." Later that day, she stood in the rain outside a modest stone building on Earth's northern continent. The skies were gray, the soil wet with summer thaw. Soraya's parents were under diplomatic protection, their careers shredded by scandal, their daughter's death reduced to whispers and sealed files. Alara rang the bell and waited. No guards. No aides. Just her. The door opened slowly. Ambassador Kane looked like he'd aged 20 years in 10 days. His wife, Yuna, barely looked human, hollow-eyed, slow-moving. They let her in without a word. The living room was small, warm. A folded blanket on a couch. A cup of untouched tea. On the wall, a drawing, stars, a little girl, a ship. "She drew that the night before," Yuna said, barely above a whisper. "Said she wanted to be the first girl to talk to a Jurataxi without a translator." Alara approached the image. There was hope in those lines. Hope and innocence. Yuna opened a wooden box and handed her something. A small pendant, hand-carved, simple. Terran oak, etched with the old Earth symbol for Guardian. "She wore it every day," the mother said. "Even in the tribunal." Alara took the pendant. It was warm. Real. "I promise you," she said. "They will remember her name." The shuttle hissed as it broke from Earth's orbit. Alara sat alone in the cockpit, the stars stretching across the screen like blades of cold light. She keyed in the codes manually, each one unlocking a protocol thought dead for generations. Directive null. Earth's president appeared in a secured hologram before her. "Don't do this, Alara," she warned. "We don't even know if the footage was approved by the full council. I don't care if it was one species or all 23. They wore the badge. They let it happen. You go through with this, and we lose the Accord." "No," Alara replied. "We lose the illusion." She terminated the feed. Coordinates punched in. The blackness deepened as the shuttle passed Saturn's orbit. A flicker of distortion. Then the veil parted. A dead neutron star pulsed silently in the void ahead, dense, invisible to most sensors. Orbiting just beyond its gravity well, Fleet Anchorage Zeta. Steel hulls the size of mountains slept in formation, chained by gravity locks, shielded by blackout fields and outdated treaties. The ancient fleet, mothballed since the Second Galactic War, a remnant of humanity's darkest years. Alara docked at the command tower, her boots clanging against metal untouched in decades. Her breath formed mist in the cold. She reached the throne of the relic, the central terminal of the TSV Nemesis. The walls pulsed faintly. A dormant heart. "Wake up," she said. The air shifted. Lights flickered. Gravity adjusted. Identity required. Ilara Voss. Commander, Terran Strategic. Authorization incomplete. No council override. I'm not here with their permission. Purpose? Ilara placed Soraya's pendant on the activation altar. Justice. Silence. Then a deep, resonant hum. The lights snapped into full power. The hull rumbled. Memory acknowledged. Justice confirmed. Fleet protocol initializing. Outside the viewing deck, engines lit. One by one, the dreadnoughts woke. Gunmetal leviathans, older than most galactic civilizations, drifting forward like resurrected titans. The voice of the Nemesis whispered in her earpiece. Last recorded fleet movement, 2137 C. Battle of Ceres. Status, all systems green. Ilara stared out into the stars. They thought we'd forgotten how to burn, she murmured. In her quarters, she reviewed the first list. Targets not for conquest, but remembrance. A supply station. A comm relay. A council broadcast node. No casualties. No declarations. Just silence, followed by unmistakable precision. Soraya's pendant now hung around Ilara's neck. A promise carved in wood. The galaxy thought Earth had grown soft. It was about to learn that mercy has limits. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but on Mestari Prime, it lit up the sky like a second sun. The Council's outer ring weapons depot, orbiting high above the jungle world, disintegrated in a brilliant white flash. No alarms had sounded. No enemy vessels were recorded. No signatures left behind. Just emptiness where once there was order. Within the hour, emergency sessions across the Galactic Council systems began. Official statements cited power failure. Others whispered sabotage. Privately, many suspected Earth. Archon Veiltak, tall and glistening in his polished carapace, stood before the central command dais in the Council citadel. His voice was measured but cold. The Terrans are testing our patience. First, they send the footage. Now, our strategic nodes vanish. These are not pirates. This is precision. A diplomat from the Vrain Confederacy spoke up, scales shimmering. But there were no deaths. Could it be a message, not a declaration? Veiltak's mandibles clicked once. Intent does not alter consequence. Their silence is weaponized. That alone is threat. On board TSV Nemesis, Commander Ilara Voss reviewed the operation's results. A holodisplay hovered above the war table, showing the shattered depot and panicked internal council chatter. The mission had gone perfectly. No life lost. No traces. Just a reminder. She turned toward the AI projection taking shape beside her. It was humanoid vaguely, with an obsidian sheen and blank eyes that mirrored starlight. Its voice was deep and calm. Operation Soraya 1 complete. Next strike ready. Awaiting confirmation. She nodded. Proceed. The screen shifted. A transmission array orbiting Zarnath 6, the Council's central relay for broadcast comms, glowed red on the display. One of the fleet's stealth frigates, Spectre, was en route. Cut their voice, Ilara said. On hundreds of worlds, screens flickered and dimmed. Then, a single video began to play, raw, unedited. A little girl, wide-eyed and afraid, reaching toward a panel before being swarmed by drones. The execution footage. It played once. Then again. Then a third time, looping across public networks, military systems, even private channels. No one could turn it off. No one could look away. Outrage rippled through the galaxy. On the Zethari moons, protests broke out. On Vosker Prime, students gathered in silent vigils. On neutral trade stations, council representatives were heckled, their ships pelted with data-rigged graffiti that displayed Soraya's name. The council panicked. But Earth said nothing. Officially, They denied involvement. No statement. No declaration. No flag raised. Just silence. Within Nemesis's command deck, Alara stood at the main viewport. The stars stretched across the void like ancient wounds. The fleet was on the move, dreadnoughts, cruisers, stealth craft. Not to destroy. To remind? Behind her, the AI war councils gathered. Ghosts, some called them. Legacy code from an era of burning skies. Obsidian Crown's voice, silky and slow, spoke first. This method, it is effective. Memory as weapon. Mercy as message. We're not here to conquer, Alara replied. We want them to look in the mirror. Another AI, Archangel Red, answered in a more human tone. They will, Commander. But mirrors crack under fire. Hours later, a scout ship reported unusual movement, a council diplomatic vessel, drifting off course near the Solari drift belts. Aboard were civilians, families of ranking council officers, including children. Alara reviewed the data in silence. Intercept? Asked Red. She gave the order. The boarding was swift. No weapons drawn. The Vigilant docked with the drifting diplomatic cruiser, and Alara stepped aboard with 2 Terran Marines. She wore no helmet. The ship was small and sterile, the corridors tight. Council staff cowered behind sealed doors. At the far end of the hall stood a Jurataxi child, not unlike Veiltak, but smaller, trembling, clutching a stuffed carbon weave figure in its claws. The child didn't speak. Just stared. Alara knelt to its level. We're not here to hurt you, she said quietly. We came to make sure you got home safe. The child blinked twice, confused. She nodded to her Marines. Escort them back. No scans. No questions. As the boarding party departed, Alara stood in the airlock alone. She didn't speak. Didn't move. The message had been sent. Let them see what humanity could do, and choose not to. Hours later, the council chambers erupted again. Veiltak roared at his delegates. They hijack our systems. Humiliate us. And now parade mercy as if it redeems terrorism. Others disagreed. The ambassador from the Dleth spoke, long fingers folded. They could have killed. They didn't. Even now, they strike only infrastructure. Shouldn't we ask why? They are unstable. Veiltak growled. We must blockade their system. But others were beginning to question. The footage had changed everything. That evening, Nemesis broadcasted again. This time, Alara appeared directly. Holographic, towering, projected into the council chamber during a scheduled session. Panic. Shouts. Guards. But no one could disable it. She spoke calmly, clearly, voice firm. You called her a spy. You stripped her of rights. You killed her in silence. We will not answer in kind. But we will be heard. Images of the destroyed depot and the hacked array flashed behind her. This is not war. This is a reminder. That we saw. That we remember. Veiltak snarled. Is this a threat? Alara's image narrowed its gaze. No. This is mercy. After the feed cut, the council fell into chaos. Veiltak demanded emergency powers. Others called for restraint. Some, for the first time, mentioned words unspoken since the last Great War. Terran sovereignty. Back on Nemesis, Alara removed the pendant from her neck, placed it on the console. She didn't die for nothing, she whispered. The AI voice replied. No, Commander. She became the echo. And echoes shake empires. The council chamber had never been so quiet. Rows of alien delegates sat beneath the crystalline dome of the citadel, lit by the distant fire of a red giant star. Monitors flickered, data feeds jammed with protests from across the spiral arms. Every representative had seen the girl's execution now, on repeat, broadcasts by Earth's ghost fleet. They had also seen the restraint. The mercy. The silence wrapped in fire. Archon Veiltak stood rigid at the center podium, his mandibles clenching. I demand this body authorize a blockade on the Terran system, he rasped. They defy our laws. They hack our channels. They shame our order with every breath. Ambassador Lithian of the Thessari leaned forward. Her translucent tendrils flicked in agitation. And yet, they have not killed. Not once. Not even when they could. It is manipulation. It is discipline, she countered. Whispers rippled through the chamber. Some said Earth had shown restraint. Others called it psychological warfare. But all knew one thing: the humans were not afraid. And neither was Elara Voss. Aboard TSV Nemesis, Elara watched the latest vote unfold on a projected feed. 14 for de-escalation, said the AI voice, neutral as always. 8 against. 1 abstention. Still not enough, Elara muttered. She stood alone on the bridge, the pendant still hanging at her neck. Her officers waited in silence. No orders were given. No weapons primed. Until a flicker on the screen changed everything. A direct message, not from the Council, but from Veltak himself. She opened it. The Archon's image appeared, dark chamber behind him, no audience, no pretense. You misunderstand our strength, he said coldly. We are unity. You are sentiment. You hide behind the memory of a child, and you threaten the galaxy with old machines and wounded pride. Elara didn't respond immediately. She leaned forward, elbows resting on the polished steel of the console. You didn't kill her out of fear, she said at last. You did it to see if we'd kneel. He said nothing. Instead, she continued, we stood. And now you're afraid. She ended the call. The next broadcast would be her last. At 0500 Terran Standard, Earth's flag was projected across every major relay in the Accord. Elara appeared not as a diplomat, not as a general, but as a voice of judgment. You have 12 hours, she said. Her voice was calm, unwavering. To deliver a public apology. To authorize a neutral tribunal for war crimes. And to remove Archon Veltak from office. Behind her, Nemesis loomed, silent in orbit over the Council's own citadel. If not, we will shatter your center, not to conquer, but to prove that we can. Then the feed cut. No music. No anthem. No flag waving. Just silence. And a clock. Inside the citadel, chaos surged. Some species called it blackmail. Others called it overdue. The Council's internal vote teetered by the hour. Veltak snarled at his aides. If we bow now, we lose all control. Humanity must be made example. The Dleth ambassador rose. We tried that. The child was the example. Now they are the echo. The room split. Delegates shouted, argued, gestured wildly. Systems pulled their fleets to defensive posture. No one dared move against Earth. But no one dared stand with them either. Except time. And it was running out. With 2 hours remaining, Elara returned to the bridge. All fleet assets in range, the Nemesis AI reported. Firing solutions preloaded. Fusion cores primed. Show me, she said. The forward screen lit with targeting overlays. The Citadel. Orbital docks. Defense turrets. Every one of them locked. She didn't flinch. Her officers watched her closely. No one doubted her resolve. But she didn't give the order. Not yet. 1 hour. The Council convened again. Not in the public chamber, this time, behind sealed doors. A third vote was called. It passed. Veltak was stripped of authority by majority rule. His resignation recorded. He screamed as he was escorted from the chamber, cursing humans, spitting warnings of future war. No one answered him. Then came the broadcast. This time, from the Council itself. The image of the new interim chair appeared, an Yuvanian scholar, long trusted for her impartiality. She bowed her head. To the people of Earth, and to the memory of Soraya Kane, we failed you. The apology was brief, but clear. Then came the Tribunal Charter, ratified by 18 member species. A War Crimes Review Board, to include human representation, sworn to hold any species accountable for violations of life and law. On Nemesis, the clock struck 0. Elara stood at the helm, watching the apology finish streaming. Her hand hovered over the final authorization switch. Then slowly, she pulled it back. "Stand down, targeting systems," she ordered. "Confirmed," said the AI. "Retargeting protocols nullified. Weapons powering down." Her crew let out slow, quiet breaths. One officer wept. Another saluted. Nemesis began to turn away from the citadel. Not in retreat, but in withdrawal. The statement had been made. The storm had passed. But Earth's shadow remained. 3 days later, Earth formally exited the Galactic Accord. Their seat was left vacant, not revoked. Several systems immediately sent envoys, independent talks, private channels. Fear had turned to caution. Caution into respect. No one laughed at humanity now. Back on Earth, the Hall of Peace was packed. A bronze statue stood at its center, small, simple, lifelike. Soraya Kane, reaching upward toward a constellation of glowing stars above her head. Not heroic. Not larger than life. Just a child. Remembered. Elara stood before it alone. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Nearby, a little boy in a school uniform stepped forward, a blue flower in his hand. He placed it at the statue's base, then looked up at Elara. "Did she win?" he asked softly. Elara looked down at him. "No," she said. "She reminded us why we should." Above the city, in high orbit, Nemesis drifted quietly, its hull painted with the words, "We remember." And across the stars, so did they.